All right, so this is the video that's going to run through the exercises that you can do for strengthening, generally speaking, but specifically if you're starting to have some knee issues. The first exercise is kind of the funky one, so I'm going to start with it. You'll need a small round band, and this is to better stabilize at your ankles and at your hips. So you have this band around your ankles, and we've done this before. You do a little step side to side. So you can get a 12-inch round band online or something like that. But basically it's this exercise, and you guys are gonna feel it in your hips. We've done some of this before. You wanna have like a little mini squat, so make sure you're not straight up, and you should start to feel some work building here. So you're in your landing, about to jump, kind of mini squat position, right? So hopefully this shouldn't hurt your knees, just doing this one, right? Make sure as you're stepping out, the knees aren't staying behind, right? But you're pushing into the band from these muscles up in your hips, and the knees and the feet follow, right? So the connection point, the resistance point is down there at the feet, but the work is coming from up here. So we want our knees and toes to line up with each other. We don't want the feet to go and the knees and the hips to stay in. Okay, so once you get a little pumped up right there, you are going to keep the band down at your ankles and do this kind of interesting exercise. So you'll have your feet lined up parallel. You're gonna wanna hang on to something, probably off to the side or something, but I'm gonna show straight on. You'll go up onto your tippy toes, and that's important. You gotta get way up there. And then you're gonna push out at your ankles. Stay on your tippy toes and lower down. So I'm gonna do that again and then show you from the side. So I'm way up on my tippy toes, push out. You should feel the arches and your posterior tibialis working. So that's here on the inside of the foot. That's the part that if it's collapsing when you're landing, that puts a lot of pressure on your knees. So this is to help strengthen that inner portion and then up into here as well. So from the side, you can see I'm coming way up on my tippy toes, and then I'm staying there to push out, to stretch the band, right? So sometimes I'll see people push out and lower down at the same time, and that's a weakness in that spot. So you want to stay way up on the tippy toes. That's why go ahead and hang on to something, and then push out. You can even hold it there for a moment, ease it back in, and lower down, right? So this is the anti-collapsing arches, flat feet exercise. So you could do 3 to 4 sets of 10 on that one, and you can alternate between this exercise, the tube walking, kind of one, and then going up and down with the hips. And that addresses more of the hip and the ankle connections that affect the knees. So more directly working the muscles down the legs, you're gonna want to have one of these larger round bands, and you'll put it around an anchor point. We use those in practice. This one won't take as long for me to describe, and we've done some of these. So I have an anchor point off to the side. I have it around my front leg. If the band had its way, it would pull my front leg in, but I'm gonna be pushing it back out and maintaining a lunge position. So I'm just going down and up. Now while I'm going down and up, right, I want on all of these, I want the knee to come forward a little bit and my torso to tip forward, so I'm in this jumping and landing kind of a position, right? And go down and up. So make sure when you're doing your lunge, you're not just sitting back into your back leg on all of these exercises. You have this kind of forward position that we have. The knee comes forward, but not past the toes. And you should be able to have your heel on the ground, so you're not going up into your tippy toes for all of these. Okay, so now I've got my anchor point off to the side, and I'm going up and down. If I lean forward into a little bit, I'm loading the muscles of this front leg, and I'm continually, whether I'm up or down, I'm continually keeping some out pressure on the band so it doesn't pull me in. So at any point in the range of motion, you don't want that knee to be knocked in. You're gonna feel the work right in here. All right, and then you do the exact same thing for the inner thigh. So you can turn yourself around or whatever. You wanna do this on both legs anyway, but you do the same thing. Now your leg's getting pulled out this way, but you're pulling it back in. So these are all exercises to balance out that when you land and take off, right? You have muscular support around the leg, around the knee, so that you are tracking the knee joint in line with the toes. So on this inner thigh one, I'm still hinging forward a little bit. I'm putting most of the weight into my back leg, or front leg, so I could even lift up my back leg. I wouldn't recommend balancing with it, but just the idea that you have all your weight forward. Okay, so that's the inner outer thigh. Then, for your quads, you have the anchor point now in front of you, and you can start by just pumping up your quads. right? So just make a muscle with your quads. So you're stretching the band by extending your knee. This is called terminal knee extension. And right there you may feel like you're working your quads. This should feel a little bit like that machine at the gym where you extend your leg, right? That one's not so good for the knee. This one's fine. Your body weight's down in the foot. This is what's called a closed kinetic chain, right? So we're using the more natural mechanics here to straighten the leg against resistance. Once you get that and you feel like, okay, I found the muscles right there, then you can go back to that same lunge kind of thing. Let the band kind of pull your knee forward just to the front of the toes, so then you can sit back a little bit more, and you may be able to get into a lower squat in this one because the band's pulling you forward, but you're sitting back, heels on the ground. When you come up, you're pushing the back of your knee into the band, right? So I'm doing full range of motion, getting my leg all the way to terminal knee extension, right? If you have any vulnerability in the joint, just straighten your leg, but you don't need to lock it out, like straighten it all the way. You don't need to get to the end of the range of motion. That's where all the connective tissues kind of get locked in. So we don't want to pinch anything in there. We're just looking to engage the quads, right? So you can push your foot down on the floor, come up, and you're working to straighten the knee, extend the knee against this resistance, right? So with a little practice, you should be able to feel the quads pretty easily. So now we want to isolate the hamstrings and strengthen the connections in the back of the leg. So to do that, you can get something slippery under your heel, right? On a wood floor, or just a sock foot will do the trick. And you're doing a heel slide. We did these at the gym with a ball, a large ball as well, in the strength training group, right? But the idea is you slide your leg away, and then you push your heel down into that slippery surface and slide back in. So I'm pushing down, I'm creating a little bit of friction. You can also do this up, right? Even with both legs. Extend out, and then it's work to pull back in, right? Pull back in, right there. You should feel it behind your leg. You can have kind of just part of your body weight on one leg. Basically just work to slide your leg back in. And you should feel your calves and your hamstrings contracting. You just had work to extend your knee. Now you have work to bend your knee. So you can find something where you can just feel like you can make a muscle behind your leg. And you can go all the way to a straight leg bend, find your quads, push your heel down into the ground, and slide. If you have carpeting, you can just take like a paper plate or something on the carpet to make sure that you can glide, right? A socked foot on a wood floor. Here I just have that band because it's a cloth band, and I can really feel my hamstrings pushing down, right? So that way you can strengthen all the way around the knee. The last one, which we do in conditioning now and then, puts it all together and adds a balance component, so that arch posterior tibialis connection also needs to be active. So that's the one where we go 1, 2, turn 3, push into the ground to come up 4. So from the side, it's a squat 1, kick out to the side 2, turn towards the leg you're standing on 3, and then push that foot into the ground to come up. So you're using the muscles of the leg. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so there you go. You could do all of these exercises to strengthen your knees, hips, and ankles.